Hello everyone, bringing you a video today looking at the Spring Cold War event at Hack Green. Once again, a very enjoyable event this year. This weekend passed, over Easter weekend. It was really enjoyable to go once again, and always lots of interesting people to talk to. The bunker itself is very interesting, of course. We enjoyed putting on a display. Miko put on a display of the Korean War cold weather kit, which always draws some interest, and it was good talking to people. Obviously there are displays there of Warsaw Pact kit, neutrals, British Army in the 1980s, so it's a really varied event from that point of view, covering the whole scope of the Cold War, and you see a lot of kit you wouldn't necessarily see elsewhere. Obviously a lot of obscure sort of Warsaw Pact kit and so forth, which is always very interesting. So in this video we'll have a look at the Miko's display of cold weather kit from the Korean War, the British issue cold weather kit, and some other displays as well, and that's what we're going to have a look at now.
We'll have a quick look at our display here. Nothing particularly new, it's Korean War display again, 1953. So we have a display of the cold weather kit here, and we're battling the wind, so I'll try and run over this. Hopefully there won't be too much wind noise, but you can see here the combat uniform, the inner layers, cold weather clothing, drawers, pyjama type at the back there, the neck square, the various layers of socks and gloves, the string vest here, jersey heavy wool, combat hood, combat cap, smock and trousers, and then the cold wet weather boots in the corner there. Obviously we have a mannequin here with the middle parka and web equipment displayed there. So selection of brassards in the corner here as well. So fairly simple kit layout of the cold weather uniform.
So I've recorded a voiceover for this section because the wind noise was just too much, and running through the kit I'm wearing here, as you can see, what I have here is the combat smock and combat trousers from the combat sateen suit introduced during the course of the Korean War, part of the cold weather uniform introduced for use in Korea. Of course, a design of combat uniform had been in the works for some time prior to the Korean War. There was a prototype version of this, but this is the issue version that was introduced for use in Korea. So combat smock and combat trousers worn here, wool shirt underneath of course. The web equipment is 1944 pattern. This was basically standard in Korea by the time we're representing here, 1953. It was used by the British Commonwealth Division not only by British troops but by Australian troops as well. It was basically theatre issue. You can see the bayonet for the rifle number 4 is carried on round on the side of the pouch here, and the weapon of course carried is the rifle number 4, the standard British infantry rifle of the time. And we have a bandolier carrying extra .303 ammunition slung over the top of the web equipment here, as you can see. 2 charges in each pouch of course, in each pocket of the bandolier. Footwear consists of the boots cold wet weather, worn with short puttees, as you can see here, again part of the cold weather uniform. In terms of headgear, I'm wearing the midnight blue beret, basically standard by this time, and this is worn with the cap badge and red cap backing of the King's Own, who were out in Korea towards the very end of the conflict and then basically on garrison duties thereafter once the ceasefire had been signed. I chose to wear this as we're looking at a very late period in the conflict with our display. All the later examples of the cold weather kit and so forth decided to badge up as this regiment for the event. And as is typical for these videos, we'll now move on to have a look at some of the other displays.
So we're here with Jack from MVA UK, and he's going to run through their display of MVA kit. I think the Grenstroop display mainly here, and have a look at various items which are on display here. So yeah, please take it away, Jack.
Thank you. So yeah, so this is our MVA UK setup here at Hack Green. So we've got a bit of a very variety of kit really, of different army stuff and Grenstroppen kit, sort of the National Volksarmee of the DDR. Our period is sort of focused on the mid to late 80s at the moment. It's quite dynamic with the kit that they use. They used earlier stuff all the way through to the end of the DDR, and they also introduced some stuff right towards the end, 86 to 89. So I'll talk you through some of that today. We'll start off with some of the basic conscript issued kit. So conscription was mandatory in the DDR, so you'd serve your stint and be issued your kit. Going from the ground up, the boots were a pebbled leather, rubber sole boot, very similar to Soviets in design. These ones have just a leather lining, and you'd get one pair of those, and those would be the same for your Felddienst uniforms, so your field service uniform, which is what I'm currently wearing, as well as your Dienst uniform, so your service uniform, which is the grey tunics that you'd see for various duties throughout the DDR. These ones, on the other hand, are Korea soldier boots. So these are a smooth leather, and they've got a white leather. You'll see inside, they've got more of a white fitting. You can see the NVA stamp there inside them. Now, I'm a career soldier in this impression today. I'm representing a third-year student officer, so S, and you can see the stripes, so this is 3 years into my training. I've got the basic webbing set up for a Grenztruppen officer student, and this is just the AK. So this is for the MPI-KM, which is the East German variant of the AKM. This carries 4 ammunition, four magazines in there. We've got the East German bayonet. This is the model 59-2 variant. Water canteen, and not much else on the belt in this format. The full army setup for Motschützen, so motorized infantry, would also include your gas mask bag, with full contents, including the gas cape, the SCH M41 mask, rubber tube, canister, inner gloves and outer gloves. As well as, on the back, you'd carry the NBC or ABC roll, which these 2 poppers unroll. It sits up on the Y straps on the back. You'll see 2 sets of rings there. So this enables you to wear the Sturmgepäck, which is the box-shaped bag, which I'll show you later, plus this one on the top D-rings above it. So this would sit just there. You'd undo the straps, unroll it, and the gas kit would fall out, which looks very much like a standard hazmat suit in grey. Boots built in, hood built in, and you'd wear that with your mask and the overgloves for full body coverage. Here is the Sturmgepäck that I was mentioning. So these would be, 2 of these would be issued for every conscript. They'd have an A set and a B set. The A set would be your day-to-day stuff that you'd want with you in the field, stuff like mess tins, spare underwear, spare undershirts, socks, etc. And that would come with you on your transport, and that would stay on the transport. So these guys were the Motschers, were travelling around in BMPs. They'd leave that in the vehicle, so it's very rare to actually see these in use on the backs in any sort of photographic evidence. It just wasn't really done unless they were loading up or dismounting from a vehicle. So this is a specialised bit of equipment. This is the Pioneer Spade, very similar to the Second World War design, just issued to engineer units. We've got an engineer attached to our group who sort of provides not just the construction and engineering components, but also the classic role of a sapper, so the more explosive things in chemical engineering. So they'd be issued stuff like these chemical testing kits here. This box in the middle, you can see some of the contents. It's all original. That would be for chemical testing. Behind that, we've got some of the anti-tank equipment that would be used. So above the shovel here, you've got some of the standard RPG gunner setup. So this would be for your scope, your RPG scope. This would hold your rounds for the RPG-7 and a sling for the RPG-7. Here we've got an RPG-18, which is a man-portable device. You can just take that with you, and that's everything you need in one disposable package. This has got the original German instructions with the East German soldier diagrams on there. Here's a full gas setup like we saw earlier. Some of the variants of magazine pouches that I'm carrying here. This is the slightly earlier type with the curved profile. They then went straighter later on, and finally you've got one with a pouch on the side for the RG57 cleaning kit here, which is very similar to the Second World War model, the German Second World War model, containing your basic rifle cleaning kit for field maintenance, a cloth, etc., all of that in there. Some basic personal effects that you'd find in the Sturmgepäck, so towels and a wash kit. This is a private purchase item, but we've also got some DDR toiletries such as your toothbrush and general wash components in there. One of the more interesting features of the work uniform are the lobster claw gloves. So three-finger glove design, so you'd have 2 fingers in one, suede palms, and these were issued as workwear, not necessarily winter wear, just for general working tasks, heavy lifting, those sort of dirty tasks. The standard helmet for the East German Army and border guards, etc., was the M56. So this is a foam lined with leather, similar to the earlier German models. The actual profile shape of the M56 helmet came from an earlier World War II prototype design that was never introduced during the war. But this served all the way through to the DDR, different models, the 56, then the later variants, either with a net, sometimes bare, or like you can see here with the Strichtarn cover. So the Strichtarn is the name for the East German camouflage. It roughly translates to striped camouflage. You can see why it looks sort of like raindrops or stripes. This one has an inbuilt mosquito net in the front of it that folds down, and an inbuilt sun shield at the back that folds down to cover the back of the neck. Most often seen though just tucked away, used as a cover. And these are seen on a varying basis, same as the nets. So they're period appropriate for most eras of the DDR where Strichtarn was found. A set of East German mess tins, very similar to models that came before it. The standard folding shovel, not seen worn with Grenztruppen kit like I'm wearing today, but issued to the army. Moving on to some of the more Grenztruppen specific kit. So the Grenztruppen were the border guards patrolling the border wall between East Germany and West Germany. Not just in Berlin, but this covered a large stretch of Germany, and some of the specific items that they would have been issued include cameras such as the Praktika model we have here, the 771 radio, which would have been worn with the shoulder strap, very common to see border guards with this piece of kit. It's got a little clip here. These were used to talk to each other. So you've got a PTT button, push to talk. This one is a working model. We use these in the field to communicate still. And a set of 7x40 binoculars here, which very bulky things, all considered a massive upgrade from the earlier Dienstglas that you see in earlier in the MVA and before that during the Second World War. So a great piece of kit for Grenztruppen for optics. You've also got here something we picked up recently, a PSE plug-in telephone module. So this was used to plug into modules based along the border, similar to fire hydrants, if you will, sort of metal boxes with an outlet point. The Grenztruppe would carry this with him and then plug it into the point, and he'd be able to communicate with someone further down the line at the border if you were having difficulties with radio communications or you were communicating over a longer distance. This is the earlier model of bayonet with the rubber sheath on. So we use a complete variety of kit. It was never really standardized that one model was replaced by another. It was all used up until it broke or it became defunct and no longer needed. Our rifles, here today we have an AKM. The actual rifle in use by the East Germans was an MPI KM, so Maschinenpistole KM. So this was slightly different to the AKM you see here today in the fact that the furniture would have been made of Bakelite, so a brown plastic substitute material. This is the closest we've got currently. We're working on sourcing original Bakelite components to fit to these rifles, but in the meantime this gives a fair representation of the weaponry that would have been used by the East Germans. This is the earlier 7.92 by 39mm Kurz sort of standard AK round, if you will. The East Germans did see use of the AK-74 variant later on, but it was never fully to replace the AK, so the AKM saw service right to the end of the DDR. So that's just a brief run through of some of the kit we've got today. Please try and find us on Facebook. We're getting started. This is our first public event, and we're growing rapidly as a group, so we'd love to have you involved in sort of our journey into educating people more about East Germany and the various components of its civilian and military life. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Jack. Very much appreciated. Thank you.
Cheers.
Okay, so here we have Luke with the London Living History Group, and he's going to take us through his collection of Yugoslav kit here.
Dobrodošli, welcome to Yugoslavia. So what I'm wearing is called a MOZ suit. Now, the first two words in MOZ, because it's an acronym, it's Maskino Oldelo. I can't remember the last part of it, sorry. What I got here is an M70, it's a type of AK. You'll notice the 3 holes on the handguard, different like gas block for rifle grenades, and the pistol grip as well is quite different. Here we have a few Yugoslav weapons, so some of them are unique to Yugoslavia. That's an M49 submachine gun, that's an M56, these are both indigenous designs, very similar to the Beretta 38. This 56 here has a really weird safety. Most guns it's obviously like a button, but with this you pull the bolt open, you twist that,
And that locks it in position.
Locks it in position, yeah. So let's put that back. It's a Yugoslav SKS with a slightly different flash hider for grenades, which are similar to the grenades mounted on this. This is an M80 Zolya. So anti-tank weapon, portable anti-tank weapon. Long story short, the Yugos saw the law and said we need to make one of these. It's 64, that's RBR, so rocket propelled, I can't remember, sorry, my Serbian's so bad. This is, I'll have to take this off for this. This anti-tank launcher here is an RB57. It's really, really heavy. Yugoslav made. They basically wanted an RPG-2, but better. And the warhead is actually really effective. I've seen that in footage crack at T55, quite a long way away. You see these all the time. This is a Yugo M53, so it's a copy of the MG42. Like different logo on it, essentially. It's old spec, so it does that. This is brilliant.
And you say they see them a lot because a lot of German reenactors use them, is that why?
Yeah.
As a stand-in?
There aren't many differences, like the flash harder's slightly different. You've got that marking. Sometimes the grips are a certain Bakelite, but it's not that many
Not a
differences.
huge
Why
difference.
change it when it works? And then got like an assortment of some military and cultural items. So you'll see my weapon is a copy of an an RD-54, copy of the Soviet weapon. Except it's essentially configured for STG-44 magazines.
Yes.
So Yugoslav paratroopers used STG-44s till the mid-80s, basically. That's a paratrooper helmet. You don't see those very often. And
Various cultural items down the front here, football kit and things like that.
yeah, so like they made cars back when Zastava was still going. Model of a Yugo there. Yeah, Yugoslav passport was the best in the world at the time. In the 1980s, you only needed a visa for 5 countries in the world. Everywhere else you could go with no paperwork.
Just on the Yugoslav passport, yeah.
I think the Yugos, they won a Euro in the 60s. I think it was in Italy. The football team weren't bad at all. And obviously Croatia are doing brilliant now. So, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yugo kit.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. Cheers, Luke. Much appreciated.
No problem.
And of course, the last thing to look at here are some bits and pieces picked up over the course of the weekend. So that's what we're going to have a look at now. First thing to talk about are two shovels, which aren't going to fit in frame very well, but that's by the by. We're going to have a look at least one of these, probably not that long, in the not too distant future. In the not too distant future, I want to look at them side by side because that will show you the difference with these two. This is just a GS shovel. None of these items were picked up at the show per se. They were all, there are bits and pieces which have been picked up for me and then brought to the show. This was found by Ramsey Green. Thank you very much, Ramsey. Turned up in previous videos talking about rations and so forth, of course. I'm sure Ramsey is familiar to many of you. 1943 date here, and broad arrow, as you can see. It does need cleaning up. It obviously needs the handle stripping back to wood, and the head needs repainting and so forth as well. So I'll be doing that at some point in the future, tidying that up. So we've got that there, a GS shovel, and behind it, or underneath it rather, we have a rather interesting piece, a much larger head on this, much larger blade. This is a Shovels RE. Shovels Royal Engineers, so I'm very pleased with this. I think it is also marked, there we go, 43 as well. And this is from Alan Pryor, so thank you very much for this, Alan, much appreciated. Put these to one side and we'll crack on and have a look at some of the other bits and pieces. I have here a set of DPM PLCE. This sort of folded into shot here. So we have a basic set of DPM PLCE here, the two ammunition pouches, so water bottle pouch, utility pouches at the back there, as you can see, bayonet frog there, and the yoke and everything all taped up, as you can see. So rather happy with that. A nice addition to the collection again from Alan. Thank you once again, Alan. An interesting item here, if I can bring this into shot. I won't be able to see much of this, but this is an early trials version of the Bergen, associated with the 1975 pattern equipment, and you can see it has the same fixtures on the side pockets as the 1975 pattern equipment, or 1972 pattern as collectors often refer to it. You can see that there, sort of derived from the US Alice or M1967 equipment. So we'll be talking about that in a future video. Both the front pocket, you can see the little tabs here, little loops for the ties on the flap for the front pocket, which, well, that's for the main pocket rather. For the main compartment, you can see the tapes coming down for that there, which tie off like the Parabergen, and then you can see here the front pocket also closes in that way. The little loops here, and the tapes coming down from the flap there. Obviously strapped with a cam buckle here, in common with the rest of the 1975 pattern equipment. Very pleased with this. I do have an early frame which I'll be fitting this onto. In common with a lot of the other early production rucksacks, it has plastic D-rings at the top rather than metal. They haven't been clipped into the frame, but I'll be replacing the frame on this, as I say, with the 1972 dated example which I have. This is just a standard GS rucksack or GS Bergen frame, I think dated 1978 if I remember correctly, and this was from Peter, a friend of ours who was camping with us and taking part in the event as well. So thank you very much indeed, Peter, much appreciated. I have another set of PLCE to look at here as well. This is a green set, but the second issue version of the components. So we have the ammunition pouches here with the modified method of attaching these onto the yoke and onto the back of the belt, as you can see there. And the other components all have the second version. I can bring this into shot here. There we go, without knocking everything over. You can see here we have all the second version of fixtures and fittings on the back of these. So a nice thing to have, again. Didn't have a full set of the second issue components, and it's nice to have this set, obviously, with piecing everything together. Be able to put the full set of that together to talk about at some point in the future. We have yet more PLCE components here. We have a set of the side pouches from the rucksack, and you can see details of that on the back here. I believe these are a version of the trials version, which are rather nice to have. Need to double check that, but we have that here with the yoke for carrying them on the back. You can see here the details of the marking on the back there, and obviously these panels where details could be written in. So very pleased to have these. Need to check them against the examples I already have, but a set of those there. Another rather nice item which is associated with the 1975 pattern equipment is this Trilux pouch, obviously for carrying the Trilux sights. You have the details on the back there with the contract number, Chelsea Court Company, the manufacturer, and the date of 1972. So that's a rather nice addition to that set of equipment. It attaches with a belt loop on the side here, as you can see. Almost made of sort of seatbelt material, nylon woven strap there, and with the same fixture as we saw on the side pocket of the rucksack we were looking at just before. Again, that was from Alan, so thank you very much again, Alan. Another item from Peter was this lightweight poncho. Thank you very much for this, Peter. I did have an example of one of these, but I have no idea where it's gone. I don't know if it's been lost at a show or been... I just don't know. So Peter very kindly gave me this. It's very kind of him. Just means I do have one again, and if the other one turns up, I'll have two, which obviously can be connected together and so forth. It's useful to have more than one of these, but I genuinely don't know where the other one I had has gone. So rather puzzling that, but I have one again now, so thank you very much indeed for that, Peter. An item of naval uniform, which I picked up, is this. This is a cadet's officer's jacket. You can see we have the loop and button on the collar there. A little bit of fluff on there, get rid of that. And then we have, interestingly, the cuff badges here, obviously with the bugle badge, batons and a star above, which is unusual to see. As I say, you do find these jackets turn up relatively frequently, but to have it with the cuff badges there is rather nice. I think, if I remember correctly, there is a label in the pocket of this. Knock in the camera, there we go. You can see that there. The details of the owner of this there. No date, unfortunately, but nevertheless a very nice thing to have. And this was a gift from Josh Hamilton, who very kindly gave me this. I think it came in with some other naval bits and pieces he picked up, and it was surplus to his requirements, so thank you very much, Josh. I'll put a link to Josh's Instagram down in the in a pinned comment down below if anyone wants to go and have a look at his stuff as well. He was obviously involved with us with the display, the Korean War kit at Hat Green, so looking forward to getting involved with some events of his later on in the year. And the final thing to look at here is a very exciting item, which is coming from Alan, a recently deactivated number 5. And I haven't had one of these in the collection previously. Obviously it will be very useful with my interest in Malayan emergency and so forth, post-war use in the jungle. Much as it wasn't exclusively designed for use in the jungle, it did see extensive use in the jungle after its introduction in the post-war years. So I'm very pleased to have this. It's a lovely item to have. 1945 dated example, and it's a lovely example. So I'm very pleased to have this in the collection. It will be a very useful item to have going forward. Thank you very much indeed once again, Alan, for this. Superb. Really pleased to have it in the collection, and obviously it will be showing up in videos going forward in the not too distant future, all being well. And that is it. That's all the bits and pieces picked up over the course of the weekend. So I want to say a big thank you to the team at Hat Green, Lucy in particular, who puts on these shows and organises them and allows us all to attend. It really is great fun. I've not been to a bad one of these yet. I've not been to one where I've come away having not enjoyed the event. I can highly recommend attending, and the bunker itself is very interesting on a normal day where you don't have these displays and so forth anyway. Very interesting place to have a look round. A lot of history packed into the building, and obviously the building itself is very historically interesting as a regional command post for use during the Cold War. Had there been a nuclear attack, it would have been a centre of local government in the event of a nuclear attack in the UK. So it's very interesting from that point of view, and quite a lot of the original features are still intact. Some of the rooms have been given over to displays. I highly recommend visiting. It's well worth a look. If you have found this video interesting and you'd like to see more of this sort of thing, please do consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've previously subscribed, please do make sure you hit the little bell, the notification button down below. That will of course alert you when I upload future videos. If you really like my uploads and would like to support the channel, you can. Both Patreon and PayPal are linked down below. And as ever, a huge thank you to everybody who supports the channel using those two methods. It really is greatly appreciated. Thank you all very much indeed. If you'd like to follow the channel on social media, you can. Facebook, Instagram and Twitter are all linked down below. And if you'd like to get in touch but you don't really use social media, there is of course an email address down there as well. That's everything for this video, so until next time, bye for now.